Exchange motivations, reduce management burdens. Now, people that are in this category are typically looking to simplify, right? Maybe they're not as motivated by cash flow anymore as far as a certain return. They're probably in that conversation of looking at how they can shift from being an active investor to a more passive investor. People in this category are, generally speaking, simplicity, and oftentimes they value their time more than any particular return they may be seeking. Usually this is because they're in a different season of the investment process. They've been invested for years, and they're no longer chasing a certain deal or project or income return. Really, they're trying to insulate their time in not dealing with tenants, toilets, trash, and all that kind of fun stuff with managers. Now, in doing so, consolidating multiple properties, right? We've talked about that one as far as consolidating. That could be one to help you reduce management. Transitioning to passive investments, right? So passive investments being, this could be a private fund, right? Where you're looking to exchange and hold an equity position to realize a return, much like a lender, so to speak. You could be looking at a DST fund, right? Where you're fractional ownership to own a larger asset. And in these cases, as the investor, your sole responsibility is to collect a check every month, right? You're not dealing with the management company. You're not dealing with tenants, repairs, issues with a lease. None of that stuff is present. Now, naturally, if you're going to trade in active management for passive, that's going to come at a trade-off of typically a lower return. It's going to be safer, but it's also require less of your time, and therefore time is money. The less time you commit, naturally, the less return you're getting. As it stands right now, a lot of the passive funds, depending on the space, DSTs are generally operating around 4% cash on cash. However, some of the private offerings available to you could be offering anywhere from 6 to 12%, depending on the deal and the opportunity. So it's important that if you're in this space, you're talking to people like myself that have a network, have people that have these types of private offerings that you can place money into. Outside of the management burdens, the example that I wanted to go over today really is focusing on the DST space. So the case study is from tenants to time. And what we mean by that is from spending your time dealing with tenants to getting your time back and not. And this particular case with Mr. and Mrs. Perez, they purchased this duplex property here in San Diego in 2000 for $150,000, smoking deal. Had long-term tenants in place, and Mr. Perez was self-managing this. So tenants have been there for many, many years. He had a relationship built with them, and naturally he was involved with the communication right each month. So in speaking to Mr. Perez, really it was, hey, I've got too much time. I have to deal with this property and managing it. It's got a lot of looming repairs that are coming up, right? And walking the property, we acknowledge there was some roofing that needed to be replaced, plumbing that was cast iron, so that was going to have to be eventually replaced as well. Flooring, foundation. I mean, ultimately, we're looking at a lot of money going out of his pocket, and he was not in a place where spending money is where his head's at. It's making money, right? So in going through his options for the sale of the property, Mr. Perez acknowledged that the DST funds were a solution for him because his main motivation was to get his time back, right? He wanted to stay invested in real estate and generating passive returns. He did not want to be a part of the active management side anymore. So with that in mind, we were able to help Mr. Perez accomplish the sale of his duplex, and he was able to place money in 3 different DST funds, right? This is another good example of he's created a portfolio effect, right? He's diversified within the DST space. So as we have here on the slide, 2 active luxury senior apartment communities in Texas and an Amazon distribution warehouse in Georgia, right? So he was able to sell this property, reinvest all the equity into these 3 different funds, defer any tax implications. And the best part about this example is that through doing this reinvestment, Mr. Perez was able to actually generate twofold, so 2 times the amount of net operating income he was generating with the duplex. So just a moment to think about that. He went from an active manager to a passive manager, and he increased his net income for the performance of that property by twofold, by 100%. It's a great example of if you've got an asset that's got a lot of equity on it, right? This is a very common scenario in San Diego. Held the property for a while, got a huge equity position, and they're finding that they can actually generate the same return, if not better, in putting it into a DST or passive fund. Now, naturally, this isn't for everyone, but if you're someone who's in this space that is more interested in their time back for simplicity, doesn't want to deal with tenants and trash anymore, this is a great space for you to look in. And ultimately, you can find opportunities in the DST fund any week of the year. And so they're always available for you to inspect, get educated on, and decide if it might be something that meets your needs.